On today's episode, we're going to talk about the Book of Boba Fett, episodes 1 through 6. 7th hasn't come out yet as of this recording. We're going to get into a lot of spoilers, so if you have not seen episodes 1 through 6, I highly recommend you go watch them, come on back, and check out my thoughts. We're going to be discussing the things that have been happening and kind of doing a little bit of maybe projecting or hypothesizing about what's going to happen in the 7th episode and how much of these plot threads are going to happen in the 7th episode, or if any of them are going to be held for the next season of The Mandalorian or Ahsoka. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the Way of the Dad podcast, where we fearlessly dive into the depths of dadness. If you like what you are hearing, please share the podcast and give it a review on the platform where you listen. Thank you. Hey there, welcome back. We've been watching, the family here has been watching the Book of Boba Fett, and we're big fans of the Mandalorian TV series, both seasons. Really enjoyed it a lot. Love the extraordinarily overt Western and samurai vibes that we're getting from the show. Quite frankly, for me, it's probably some of the best Star Wars I've seen since the original trilogy. So I'm not going to get into too much about the other trilogies. Needless to say, the sequel trilogy is not my favorite, but I have my reasons, and they're narrative-based, structure-based, things like that. But we are big Star Wars fans regardless of that around here, and we have been enjoying the Mandalorian TV series quite a bit. I mean, we liked The Bad Batch. We loved the 7th season of Clone Wars. The middle sagged a little bit as far as I didn't know exactly where it was trying to go with it, but it picked up big. The finale of the 7th season of Clone Wars was phenomenal. But we've been watching the Book of Boba Fett, and it's been a very mixed bag. So let's get into that. So the first 4 episodes almost feel like their own thing at the moment, don't they? If you've watched. They revolve entirely around Boba Fett. Now, I gotta say, I really enjoyed watching him wake up in the Sarlacc pit, or in the Sarlacc, I should say, and using his ingenuity to get out and survive. I enjoyed seeing how destroyed his armor was, but it saved him. And, and it makes sense why he didn't have his armor, because we all know in The Mandalorian Season 2 he didn't have his armor originally, and somebody else had it, and Jawas, being Jawas, don't leave your car parked for very long, or your speeder in this case. You're gonna find that it's missing parts, and Jawas will be Jawas and steal all your crap. So, which they did, and there are parts of this that I've enjoyed, but I will say overall I found the first 4 episodes to be very off with the pacing and the storytelling, and they've seemed very slow at times. It just kind of bland and slow. And then they use kind of this odd parallel narrative where you're doing things now, but there's also flashbacks to then. I did like seeing how he got in with the Sand People after being a prisoner initially. I like seeing that learning process and him deciding to try to help the Sand People, who basically kind of saved his life, even though they weren't originally intending to do that. A little bit of dances with wolves there, but I like that. I like that whole part. But I gotta say, the especially compared to episodes 5 and 6, the quality of episodes 1 through 4 seem a little off. It very much feels like two very, very different director units worked on the first 4 episodes versus maybe the last 2, and I'm going to assume the last one as well, so the last 3 total. And, I like seeing a rancor being delivered to him. It was interesting that the Hutts were presented as, the twins were presented as being big-time potential villains, and then, no, they're not. They're just going to go away. And I don't feel like that was capitalized on, because it's like, I wish they would have capitalized on it in taking advantage of something that makes the Hutts scared. That's the Pike Syndicate, of course. If it's something that makes the Hutts scared, that should be scary. They had a chance to capitalize on that and really hit that part home, and they did not. The Hutts were going to be his problem. They sent Black Chrysanthemum, who looks amazing, by the way. I mean, he looks terrifying in the way that Chewie has always been hinted at being terrifying, or Wookiees in general have always been hinted at being terrifying. But we've never seen a truly mean, evil Wookiee go full bore. And yeah, I'm not going to lie, I like that. And I like the dismembering going on there too, that, ripping the arms off. That was pretty good. But they sent Black Chrysanthemum after him. He survives the attack with the help of the mods, the mod gang. Okay. And then what? They just go, well, actually, we're going to be giving up Tatooine. We're going back home to Nar Shaddaa. Bye. The twins, I mean. And by the way, we're going to give you a gift of a new rancor. It's just really strange, And they could have capitalized on the fact that the Pikes are bigger and badder and scarier. Because we've always thought of the Hutts as, if you've ever read any of the books or anything beyond the movies, the Hutts were like not to be messed with, power-wise, right? They in themselves may not be extremely scary, but their power is very, very scary. And if it's enough to make them scared, that should put you on notice, right? But they just kind of nope, we're leaving. There's other people who are fighting over this, and we're done. So I felt like that was a missed opportunity to really push, a narrative point and really hype it up. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to think about the mod biker Vespa gang, whatever. They look like they're on scooters. I've heard the Power Rangers gripe that because their bikes are all very, very brightly different colored bikes, kind of looks like the Power Rangers or something. I didn't get Power Rangers vibes so much as I got, well, how the hell is their stuff so brightly colored and absolutely nothing else on Tatooine is? It's very jarring. It feels out of place. I mean, you could have muted colors. You're on a sand planet. You're literally, whatever you have, I don't care what you have, a speeder, a starship, or a speeder bike, right? Is that not basically getting sanded down every minute of every day? It's like sandpaper, constantly. I'm sure the wind blows on Tatooine sometimes, right? So it just looks really off and out of place. It looks very inserted, not organic. And that quote-unquote high-speed chase in, what was that, episode 3 or 4? I can't remember. That looked terrible. That looked like the slowest chase I've ever seen in my life. And it just feels like we're trying to make a big deal out of the mods, and you haven't given me a reason to care about them. So I still don't, I mean, they're there, okay. But right now they look more like cannon fodder to me, especially with the big battle coming up in episode 7, or at least the one they've teased. It just looks like cannon fodder to me. So, whatever. I do like Ming-Na Wen as Fennec Shand. I did think that they could have done a little bit better job of explaining why she decided to stay with him, with Boba. I know he saved her life and all, but she more or less repaid her debt, as far as he's concerned. He wanted his ship back, and, well, she helped him. So It's just been very odd and uneven. It's not been terrible, but it ain't been real good either. And Boba's turn as this former extraordinarily ruthless, murdering bounty hunter who had no qualms, much like Mando was. And if you think about it, Mando's been a little bit more Boba Fett than Boba Fett has, especially in this show. I don't have a problem with a character evolving, realizing that, hey, the path I'm on is probably going to kill me much earlier than I should be. And he talks about this at some point, and finally in episode 4, finally really gives some explanation for where his mind's at and why it's there. The problem is it happened in episode 4. We need to get that explanation a little earlier than that. Like, why on God's green earth do you want to take Jabba's old throne? And then you're going to do it different. I'm sure a lot of people thought they were going to rule a crime syndicate differently, So it's a little odd, it's uneven, and Boba's character arc or character development has not been very well shown. I'm a big believer in, show don't tell. I don't mind you telling me sometimes, though, too. But you also got to show me. And it doesn't really show. They could have used some flashbacks to him thinking about being stuck in the Sarlacc pit and how this big idiot got him almost killed, Jabba. But we get into episode 5, and oh boy, things really change now, don't they? I mean, the production quality is through the roof. I mean, it looks as good or better than movies typically do. And they made a very interesting choice, and I don't know if it was on purpose. I mean, I'm sure it was on purpose. I mean, that episode didn't accidentally get itself inserted, but I don't know if they did it with a purpose. Were they trying, was this, because there's been a lot of internal politics going on at Lucasfilm. You can check out Overlord DVD on YouTube. You can check out Midnight's Edge, Valiant Renegade. They talk about all of this stuff. There's a lot of politics going on with Kathleen Kennedy versus Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. And now that Kennedy's probably benefactor or savior or whatever you want to call him, Bob Iger, is 100% out of the company, and Bob Chapek is now the CEO, and he is changing the way things are done. I don't know if that happened right around this time. I don't know how much of a hand Kennedy had in the first 4 episodes. There's rumors that maybe she was more heavily handed on it. I don't know. A lot of people also think that the first 4 episodes were basically what the original Boba Fett movie was going to be. There was supposed to be a Boba Fett movie, a Star Wars story Boba Fett, like Solo. But after Solo tanked, they scrapped that. So I wonder how much of this is the original script of the book of Boba Fett, and they're just hacking it into Jon Favreau's overall narrative that he wants for all these shows and the Mandoverse, if that's what you want to call it. So, but it is a jarring transition in quality and storytelling and pacing out of nowhere. It's like a car that's been struggling. You've been trying to get it into gear, and all of a sudden you don't just hit a gear, you hit the best gear, and you just take off. So episode 5 was amazing. I love seeing The Mandalorian again. I should say, I found it very interesting that he was back where he started. Now that he doesn't have Grogu, he went back to bounty hunting. And he looks like he's there because that's what he knows how to do, but it's not what he really wants to be doing. He's very over going and tracking down bounties and getting himself hurt and injured, much like Boba. I love seeing him use the Darksaber, though. And it was interesting because I remember the battle, and of course he hurt himself a couple times with the Darksaber, which I like seeing that, be honest with you. Because we don't really see people accidentally hurt themselves with lightsabers. Even though we know that lightsabers could cut off your leg without even any, hardly any resistance. They'll just slice right through. So it's like the most dangerous weapon in the entire galaxy. Almost more dangerous to you than it is to anybody else. Especially if you're untrained, right? So I enjoyed seeing that. I enjoyed the time with the new covert, or at the new whatever, at the location of the covert, new location. Him in the armor and Paz Vizsla, and the look when he brings out the Darksaber, the gravity of it. I like how she was giving him the history of it, and it kind of brings into character things about Bo-Katan and how she failed because she just accepted it instead of won it in combat. Makes me wonder when Sabine Wren is going to be making an appearance at some point, although my understanding is that's probably more on the Ahsoka show. But I loved how she was telling him he was fighting the Darksaber. And I think a lot of people have taken that word a little too literally, because I think it's mentally he's fighting the Darksaber, in the sense that he's actually fighting himself right now, because he's unsettled. And so that feeds into the Darksaber. It's been said before, if you watch Rebels, that the Darksaber feeds, it responds to the user. And he's very unsettled. He knows he's carrying the thing that can reunite the Mandalorians, but he's not reuniting Mandalorians. He's collecting random bounties on this ring, whatever. It was really cool looking, by the way. I know there's Halo vibes there, but the ring concept is not original to Halo. If you've ever seen, I think it was Elysium. I'm trying to remember. There was a movie. I think it was Elysium. Maybe it wasn't, but I think that's what it was. I think Elysium had a ring concept too. But he's very unsettled, and I think that's what's causing him to have so much trouble, because he's got a destiny in his hand, the destiny of the ruler of Mandalore to reunite all the Mandalorians, and he's not really interested in that. He's going back to bounty hunting, even though he doesn't really want that. He really wants Grogu, even if he knows that maybe it's not the best thing for Grogu, but it's what he wants. And so he hasn't decided his path. It's interesting to me, though, because he could have just lost to Paz Vizsla when Paz Vizsla challenged him for the Darksaber and they fought. He could have just lost to him, but he didn't. He fought really hard to hold on to the Darksaber. That's an interesting point. I wonder if it's coming up later. So I really enjoyed that episode. I did think that him getting a new starship was great, and I really loved the fixing up building montage going on. But it was interesting. An N1 starfighter was an interesting choice, at least initially, because now if you look at it, well, you got to assume that he's probably admitting his bounty hunting days are over, because you can't bounty hunt in that thing. There's no room to hold him, and, there's only room for one other very small occupant potentially, right? So I really enjoyed that episode. And we get into episode 6, and as high as I thought they could take me in episode 5, well, they blew through the roof on episode 6, which makes me wonder what episode 7 is going to look like, Episode 6 was every old school Star Wars fanboy dream come true, especially the people who have watched all of it. The Clone Wars, Rebels, the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy. It was all of it, and it was so good. Seeing Cobb Vanth was great. I love the Western vibes that I get from him. The gunslinger. Of course, he's played a gunslinger in a lot of shows. Between Timothy Oliphant has played in Deadwood, which was an old Western show, but it was very, very brutal and vulgar and not safe for family. Let's just say they left nothing to the imagination on that show, right? And then, of course, he played Raylan Givens in Justified, one of my favorite shows. So he's pretty comfortable putting a gun on his hip and, shoot first, ask questions later. He's real comfortable with that role, and he does a great job with that. But I enjoyed seeing him and his kind of no means no, you're not going to bribe me type thing. I get that. I like that. I was really happy to see when Mando visited whatever planet they're on, I don't know if it's the forest moon of Endor because it definitely the topography looks different, but I can't imagine there's a forest moon anywhere that doesn't have large bodies of water and different topography in different areas. So, whatever. Star Wars does this weird thing where they have these planets that are all ocean or all forest or all desert. I don't know that that's how that works, but wherever they're at, it was really cool to see what looks like his first temple being built by these ant bots. I love seeing R2-D2 lead him to a clearing where the temple's being built, and then when he wakes up with Ahsoka there, I love seeing Ahsoka there, and I love seeing Ahsoka with Luke. Of course, that makes me really, really, really want a lot more. I would love an episode where they just sat down and talked. I would geek out over that, I'm not going to lie. Also, I really enjoyed the live-action version of Cad Bane, which is kind of like that's almost the end of the episode. But the shootout in the street type thing, although I do think Cobb Vanth is just fine. He just winged him because it happened real fast and they didn't deliberately show it. So they're talking about getting him help, So I think he's okay. I mean, they saw his deputy get absolutely shot up. And I really enjoyed the fact that they brought back the original voice actor for Cad Bane. I loved how he looked in reality. Everybody's talking about, well, he's not as blue as he is in the cartoon. First of all, cartoon is a highly stylized thing. Obi-Wan Kenobi doesn't look anything like in the cartoon that he does. I mean, he looks like a version, and it's something you can recognize, but he doesn't look identical. And in the cartoon, Count Dooku, in the Clone Wars cartoon, Count Dooku has like a 12-foot long chin. Come on. It's all stylized. Cad Bane's blue. Cad Bane was blue in reality. In real life, or in whatever you want to call that. Okay? He's also really old compared to the last time you saw him. So try to remember that too. I think I saw somewhere similar. Someone did the math and was like 70-something years old. I don't know how old that is for a Duro, but that's still definitely 20, 30 years later than the last time we saw him in Bad Batch. Anyway, I thought it was great to see him. And then let's get to Luke. I purposely stepped around Luke the whole time because I wanted to talk about him in one shot. I never thought I'd ever get to see something like that. And the CG, the deepfake CG, is so good. It's actually kind of scary, to be quite frank. That's a bigger, broader subject. But it's so good. There are times when I forget that I'm looking at a CG creation. Someone actually doing the actual physical acting and then CGing a young Mark Hamill's face over him. It was so good to see him, and then to hear his young voice again was weird but awesome. And I love watching him train Grogu, trying to teach him the way he knows, because that's what he knows is what Ben, Obi-Wan, and Yoda taught him. And struggling to train Grogu because Grogu is distracted, and Grogu's heart might not be into it, and all of these other things, right? I really enjoyed watching those training sequences. It was great. It was absolutely great. What it does do, though, is it does leave a lot of question marks going into the 7th episode, and I kind of wanted to just hit over those real quick. We got, what is Mando going to do with the Darksaber? Is he going to get training with it from, say, Ahsoka or Luke, seeing as how Sabine Wren needed to be trained by Kanan Jarrus in how to use it? And she became fairly effective with it. So how is he going to get trained? And I don't know that that's going to be hit on in the next episode. That feels like more like a Mandalorian season 3. Let's say Boba Fett does beat the Pikes. Well, what are we getting at here? What are we getting to? What are we working toward? Boba Fett's just going to run Tatooine or something, or Mos Eisley, or Mos Espa, I mean? Is that what we're working towards? I don't know. I still don't get the point of this a little bit. One of the bigger parts now is the choice that Luke gave Grogu. Luke made him choose between Yoda's old lightsaber, which I know some people have said is a plot hole, But apparently Lucasfilm came out and said Yoda, being 900 years old, had many lightsabers. And then they've even thought about the fact that supposedly there was a comic that's supposed to be in canon that showed Yoda's lightsaber being tossed into a blast furnace to burn up all the Jedi lightsabers and, effectively vanquish them, so to speak. Well, Darth Sidious might have been vain enough to have a lookalike made so that he could keep the real one as a trophy, right? That's possible. Whatever, I don't care. But he puts Yoda's old lightsaber down, and then he also puts down the Beskar chainmail that the armorer made for Grogu, and making him choose between the Mandalorian path and the Jedi path. I do wonder what Grogu will choose. Part of me wants him to choose one, and part of me wants him to choose the other. But I also wonder this. Whatever he chooses, will it matter very long? Because I feel like the proper choice for Grogu is both. And so I think this is actually one of those false choices that we're seeing as an audience, but it's presented as the final choice, but it's not actually the final choice. I think the choice is for Luke. Does he try to continue doing things the old way as a Jedi? I mean, it worked for a long time, but it still didn't work. And a lot of Jedi did fall to the dark side during those years of the Republic. Or does he have to learn a new way? Because it was his attachment to his dad, to Anakin, that brought Anakin back. So attachments can't be all bad. And so I wonder if this is where Luke looks like he's doing this harsh training. He's training him very harshly. Not say harsh, but just firmly, right? And I wonder if he's that line from Ahsoka, trust your instincts. I wonder if that's going to become a bigger thing for Luke to realize, maybe I need to forge a slightly new path for the Jedi. Especially since he's around Ahsoka, who has definitely forged her own path since she left the Jedi Temple. And she's learned a lot since. So that's going to be interesting to see how that rolls out. The Grogu choice / Luke choice. Yeah. So the show has become interesting, mostly because the larger Star Wars world has been inserted into the show. It has become much more interesting since then. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Episode 7. Eventually I'll get around to talking about Episode 7, but I want to get all these out of the way first. That'll about wrap it up. Again, I appreciate all of the people who keep coming back, all of you listeners, and I'd very much appreciate if you continue to like, share, and subscribe everything, these episodes, and leave reviews if you can. But until next time, take care and have a great day. Thanks for listening. The Way of the Dad podcast is produced and recorded by, me, a stunningly average husband and father, who appreciates all of the likes, shares, reviews, and support you give. If you would like to reach out, you can find the podcast on its Facebook page, and of course you can email me at wayofthedadpodcast@gmail.com. Come back next time as we continue to fearlessly dive into the depths of dadness.